Good evening and welcome to the first annual Worst of Woke Awards. Tonight we celebrate the greatest achievements in woke film and television over the past year, and what a year it has been. Mainstream corporate studios spawned a slew of unwatchable trash so outstandingly awful that audiences the world over were left in shock at the levels of incompetence, degeneracy, cultural debasement and creative depravity to which Hollywood has sunk. Marvel's creative bankruptcy became official with the total estrogenization of the Marvel superhero stable fully completed, and even the most popular black superhero erased and replaced with a £90 woman. The CW went literally bankrupt, audiences finally turned away from Star Wars, She-Hulk happened, Jennifer Lawrence became the first woman, Rings of Power became a synonym for TV series disaster, the destruction of once popular franchises continued with ever-increasing spite, and Disney produced more flops than an orgy at an erectile dysfunction sufferers anonymous meeting. 2022's major film and streaming releases were dominated by misandry, propagandization, a deep hatred of the past, and a desire to punish the fans of that past, culminating in the worst annual box office since 1981, in what has been, surely, the worst year in film history. So tonight, we acknowledge the efforts of the anti-cultural elites in their ravenous destruction of our beloved pop culture, entertainment, and cherished childhood heroes. Joining me tonight is the Despot's minion and channel mascot, Karen Iathon, and unlike our Hollywood moral betters who seem determined to make you bored, miserable, and joyless, we hope you enjoy the show. So let's get started. Our first category for tonight is Worst Flop.
It's not about money, it's about sending a message.
Bear in mind, this does not mean the movie that lost the most money, that was Strange World, which lost close to $300 million, but rather the movie which was the most humiliating flop. The nominees for Worst Flop are Lightyear, Strange World, She Said, and Bros. This would have been a Disney clean sweep if it hadn't been for the obnoxious, anti-straight, gay rom-com Bros, which had a rock-hard determination to penetrate the American box office, pound its messages into mainstream audiences, and bring in a wad load of cash, but after an initially very weak entry, the movie quickly wilted and ended up limping away with an embarrassingly small fraction of its budget. And all this despite a reported massively inflated marketing budget intended to keep the movie erect during its box office performance. Now to present the award, Karen Iathon.
Bros was an utterly pathetic failure at the box office. It's a gay movie and appropriately enough, it reminds me of that gay bar I opened for middle-aged homosexual men with erectile dysfunction. It was a total flop and nobody came. The award for worst flop goes to Bros.
Our next category tonight is Worst Tweet. Twitter has long been a putrid cesspool of idiocy and activism. One of the great benefits of Twitter is that through it, the wider public has come to understand beyond any shadow of a doubt that celebrities are complete morons that no one should listen to. Fortunately, many celebrities still think we live in an age in which anyone cares about their opinion, and so continue to entertain us with their hot takes. So, the nominees for Worst Tweet are Mark Ruffalo.
As a worldwide public square, this app should be heavily regulated for misinformation and spamming by hostile interests. If Elon can't do that with his company, it should be seen as a public utility under governmental supervision. This system, unregulated, will be more deadly.
Yes, apparently it's a good idea to hand the reins of the internet over to the same people who lied so they could invade a country and start a conflict that led to the deaths of millions of people. Billy Eichner.
That's just the world we live in, unfortunately. Even with glowing reviews, great Rotten Tomato scores, an A cinema score, etc., straight people, especially in certain parts of the country, just didn't show up for Bros. And that's disappointing, but it is what it is.
And finally, every tweet that celebrated the death of Robbie Coltrane, that we will not repeat here. And the award goes to, of course, the pathetic, sad little low-life losers who celebrated Robbie Coltrane's death because he had the temerity to have J.K. Rowling's back when the mob came for her. Rest in peace, Robbie Coltrane, a truly great actor.
The legacy of the movies is that my children's generation will show them to their children. So you could be watching it in 50 years' time. Easy. I'll not be here, sadly, but don't you think on it for 1 minute. But Haggard will. Yes.
Up next, Worst CGI. The nominees are She-Hulk, attorney at law, for taking a comic book sex icon and turning her into something that looks like Frankenstein's monster after he had a radioactive sex change operation. In honour of She-Hulk's achievement in presenting to audiences levels of CGI ugliness not previously thought possible, there will be no other nominations in this category. And the award goes to She-Hulk.
My god, She-Hulk had to be one of the most boring shows I've ever seen. I'd rather sleep in Johnny Depp's bed than watch another episode of that.
Up next, worst marketing campaign. Hollywood have surpassed themselves this year with the spiteful, angry, fan-baiting and plain old fan-hating marketing campaigns. Not satisfied with sanctimonious moral lectures in their movies and struggle sessions, previously known as award ceremonies, Hollywood have decided that their marketing campaigns too must be used as a platform to browbeat the public for their moral inferiority to the people who covered for Harvey Weinstein for decades. The nominees for Worst Marketing Campaign are The Woman King, for expecting to get away with shameless lies, banking on the black American audience to be stupid enough to believe their historical distortionism, and claiming that anyone who didn't watch this piece of garbage was
racist.
Rings of Power, for putting diversity hire casting at the forefront of their marketing campaign and calling anyone who questioned their law-breaking ethnography a
racist.
She-Hulk, for featuring scenes from She-Hulk.
She-Hulk was just a big green pile of unwatchable sludge. That show had less substance than Jada Pinkett Smith's hairdo. I know Jada got upset when Chris Rock made some jokes about her, but when I watched it I thought, calm down lady, it's just a joke, don't pull your hair out.
Now this was a close race, but ultimately we had to go with...
I was going to make a joke about Jada Smith's hair, but there wasn't much material to work with.
But you already made a joke about Jada.
What do Will and Jada Smith have in common?
Oh, for Christ's sake.
They both slap the cheeks of other men.
The winner of Worst Marketing Campaign had to be the movie that glorified genocidal slavers, The Woman King.
The tribe that the Woman King glorified, the Dahomey, sacrificed 500 slaves every year in a ceremony to honor dead Dahomey kings. It would have really sucked to be one of those slaves, but it could have been worse. They could have been forced to watch The Woman King.
We now move on to Worst Adaptation, another category in which Hollywood studios seem to have competed aggressively to bring to the screen the worst possible forms of unwatchable dreck, often from the highest quality of sources. And the nominees for Worst Adaptation are Interview with a Vampire. Based on the gothic novel by Anne Rice, this AMC series features gay vampires, gayer vampires, hot naked gay vampire ass, gay vampires having gay vampire sex, a gay lead character who met the gay interviewer in a gay nightclub, and really good early jazz music which may or may not be gay, and that's just in the first episode, which I didn't finish. Rings of Power, based on the Silmarillion. The Rings of Power skipped over and ignored much of the source material in order to present to the audience characters familiar from the Lord of the Rings movies. It also completely invented new characters and, most abominably of all, the fake hobbits, which were included so the series would be recognisable as a Lord of the Rings product. All this is to say nothing of the fact that Middle-earth and Tolkien's characters were updated for a modern audience. She-Hulk, a series clearly not based on the comic book of the same name, but rather based on the writer's desire to insert themselves and their profound hatred of men into a major TV show.
Apparently there won't be a She-Hulk season 2. I have to say I'm disappointed. I was looking forward to not watching it.
Resident Evil. I'm not gonna lie, I gave up on this show at some point during episode 2, but I do remember thinking that the showrunner's choice to go with boring adolescent girl drama in place of battles with giant zombie beasts was not a good creative choice.
Yell, scream, break a leg. What happened? She was getting expelled. She got fucking bored.
James Corden, a failed attempt at adapting a late night host from a random fat British wanker. And the award goes to James Corden. Say what you want about the garbage shows that were nominated for Worst Adaptation, none of them will ever be as bad as James Corden. He played a central role in the crime against humanity that was Cats. He has a history of abusing waiting staff and was recently caught plagiarising jokes from Ricky Gervais. Congratulations to James Corden on receiving this award, probably the last of his career. Our next category, Career Most Damaged by Involvement in a Woke Project. We don't usually hold actors responsible for the abysmal films and shows they sometimes fall into. They're just doing what they're told after all. But sometimes they do go out of their way to make themselves as unlikable as possible when attempting to promote whatever piece of garbage they have recently starred in, and this category is our way of recognising those efforts. The nominees for career most damaged by involvement in a woke project are not Mark Ruffalo for his involvement in She-Hulk. Let's face it, his career is literally just plain Hulk, and no one likes him anyway, so his absurd Twitter rants attempting to defend the historically bad She-Hulk, or his general involvement in such a disgustingly awful show, don't matter. Billy Eichner for Bros. Bros probably lost around $45 million for whoever was stupid enough to give money to Billy Eichner to make a movie. After a failure like that, he probably couldn't get a gig filming a gay wedding. Viola Davis for The Woman King. Not only did Davis choose to star in a movie that Lupita Nyong'o walked away from due to its glorification of genocidal slavers who practiced human sacrifice, she asserted that anyone who didn't see the movie was
racist.
So if you don't come see it, then you're sending a message that black women cannot lead the box office globally.
On the beach at Ouida is a memorial. It bears witness to the fate of thousands of prisoners that the warrior women captured by order of the kings to be sold to Europeans into the transatlantic slave trade.
We are the blade of freedom!
Thousands of prisoners that the warrior women captured by order of the kings.
We are the home!
Amber Heard for leveraging female victimhood and the Me Too movement against Johnny Depp in an attempt to boost her career by increasing her victim score.
I was hitting you. It was not punching you. Babe, you're not punched.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
You know, you've been in a lot of fights. You've been around a long time. I know. Yeah.
No, when you fucking have a close
You didn't get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this. But I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you. I don't know what the motion of my actual hand was. But you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
Jussie Smollett for the Jussie Smollett hate crime hoax. Please bear in mind that although this incident took place in 2019, Mr. Smollett did not become eligible for this award until he was found guilty, a verdict which was delivered in 2022.
Like, I'm just gonna be left here with like, so they get to go free and go about their life and possibly attack someone else, and I'm here to left with the aftermath of this bull. That's not cool to me. That's not okay. So
your very name has become an adverb for lying.
This was a very close category and difficult to judge. Following his guilty verdict, Jussie Smollett's career is deader than the desire of any normal person to eat a Subway sandwich at 2 a.m. But he was a nobody before the attack, basically a hack playing himself in a moderately successful TV show. Viola Davis disgraced herself in the eyes of many on both the right and the left, but following the libel trial, Amber Heard became just about the most despised woman on planet Earth, to the point that there was widespread speculation that she was being edited out of Aquaman 2. She has recently had to flee the United States, she is radioactive to any project she gets within a mile of, and needless to say, her career is over, and she's broke. So, as deserving as all three of those nominees are, the winner of career most damaged by involvement in a woke project is Amber Heard.
What did Johnny Depp's bed say when Amber Heard walked in? You've got to be shitting me.
Congratulations to Miss Heard. Up next we have...
I mean, say what you want about Amber Heard's marriage to Johnny Depp, but she was the only one who gave a shit in that relationship.
Yes, thank you, Karen Iathon. Our next category is...
Amber Heard just fired her interior decorator. They disagreed about the placement of the stool in the bedroom.
Thank you, Karen Iathon. Next up, worst trailer. The nominees are The Little Mermaid live-action abomination, disgusting CGI, synthetic auto-tuned vocals, yet another live-action atrocity, advertising the fact that Disney are a creatively bankrupt cabal of shameless plagiarists, looting the work of previous and infinitely greater generations, and of course the casting choice made for very specific reasons. This trailer currently has 3.3 million well-deserved dislikes, and that's a conservative estimate, since YouTube hide the dislike button to protect their political and ideological allies. All the Rings of Power trailers. Rings of Power was a cataclysmically bad show and had a marketing campaign to match. The trailers told us absolutely nothing about the show, aside from its already proudly touted diversity casting, 90% of the important figures in Middle-earth being female now, and the fact that it was actively trying to rip off the Lord of the Rings movies. That said, nothing in the trailers could have prepared anyone for how bad the show actually was. We can at least say that the trailers didn't give that away. The Witcher Blood Origin. This trailer dropped shortly after Henry Cavill quit The Witcher due to his creative differences with people who don't have a shred of genuine creativity, as Blood Origins clearly demonstrates. The opening shot of the trailer is a dumb, thuggish looking white man following obediently behind two strong, diverse female characters. That about sums up this unholy mess. A hodgepodge of intersectionality driven characters beating, killing or bossing around the dumb white men. The trailer had a 90% dislike ratio, and the show itself has the distinction of being the only show of 2022 to reach a single digit Rotten Tomato audience score. Willow. Just another predictable Lucasfilm mess, updated for a modern audience with all the diversity bells and feminist whistles that actual audiences have grown so very tired of. Only about 5 people watched Willow, and I wasn't one of them. Here to present the award for Worst Trailer, Steve Martin.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The Little Mermaid.
Since around 2016, Hollywood has made extensive efforts to destroy great characters from the past. By doing so, they satisfy their ideological imperative to denigrate male characters they perceive as morally antiquated and toxic, and they punish the fans for liking characters the regime disapproves of. Our next award recognizes these efforts. Worst Character Deconstruction. We only have 2 real nominees in this category because Hollywood have been so rapacious in their pursuit of old male characters to destroy that there simply aren't any left. The nominees for Worst Character Deconstruction are Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan Kenobi was a once brave, intelligent, strong and loyal warrior. Disney Lucasfilm turned him into a pitiful, cowardly recluse who abandons his mission to safeguard Luke, runs away from a fight with Vader, runs away from a strong, diverse female Sith, is unable to catch a small child who runs like a toddler, encourages fellow Jedi to bury their weapons and hide, is easily fooled by a group of morons led by Flea, and, bafflingly, his lightsaber skills have gone from this to this. The only good thing about the utterly wretched Obi-Wan Kenobi show was that it alienated the last remnants of the fanbase, and when Lucasfilm released their next serving of Star Wars flavoured slop, Andor, there was no fanbase left to watch it. Thor. Thor had already been trashed in previous movies when he was turned into a fat, lazy loser, unwilling to accept responsibility and turning his kingdom over to a strong, diverse female character, so he could go get high with a random gang of space pirates. But in Thor, Love and Thunder, he was turned into the butt of every joke, and even had his role as Thunder God stripped away from him so it could be handed off to a strong female Natalie Portman. All of the men in She-Hulk, all male characters in the cosmically terrible She-Hulk weren't even idiots. They were caricatures of idiots, crude cardboard cutouts inserted into the show to satisfy the selfish desires of the profoundly misandrist showrunners to see men depicted in the worst possible light. And the award goes to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan managed to hide from the Empire for 20 years. Unfortunately, he couldn't hide from Disney Lucasfilm long enough for that failing studio to shudder before they got to him, though his sacrifice has helped to speed their decline, for which we should be grateful. There are precious few franchises that have remained safe from the purges of Hollywood. The ruthless destruction of the Western entertainment canon has been so rapacious and thorough that Reinhard Heydrich would have looked on in admiration. Indiana Jones, Terminator, Rocky, Star Trek, Doctor Who, Star Wars, Men in Black, Ghostbusters, Resident Evil, Charlie's Angels, James Bond, Harry Potter, The Witcher, all of the MCU character franchises, and basically everything that Disney touches. Even with all the damage that has been done to every popular franchise, Hollywood somehow managed to make everything they touched worse in 2022. So we next present the award for Most Damaged Franchise. The nominees are Disney Lucasfilm, Star Wars. Star Wars has been turned from the biggest movie franchise in the world with a massive global fan base to a widely hated money sink. Obi-Wan merely served to confirm its status as a third-rate franchise, and Andor was the signature on the death certificate. Disney Marvel, the MCU. Disney took a franchise that produced an epic story spanning 22 movies, culminating in Avengers Endgame, and in Phase 4, debased, deconstructed, and intersectionalized it. The franchise that gave us Thanos, Iron Man, and Captain America now gives us Ms. Marvel, The Eternals, and She-Hulk. A state of ruin so complete that Thanos himself would have wept. Amazon, The Lord of the Rings. To think that Lord of the Rings fans would one day long for the time when the Hobbit trilogy was the worst thing to have happened to that franchise. Rings of Power truly is an astonishing achievement. The winner of Most Damaged Franchise is Amazon, The Lord of the Rings. The Rings of Power saga is a modern tragedy. The Lord of the Rings had been the Anne Frank of franchises, hidden away from the atrocities being carried out by power-drunk, fanatical maniacs hell-bent on eradicating every trace of quality from every franchise they could apprehend. Unfortunately, the Lord of the Rings franchise could not elude the clutches of the regime forever, and from the moment the first screenshots of Amazon's vulgar display of power hit the internet, we all knew the franchise was doomed. Worst original character. In an entertainment landscape littered with requels, rip-offs, spin-offs, and the billionth formulaic superhero movie of the past 20 years, original is not a word typically associated with the current year era. But new characters must be brought into old IPs to act as a conduit through which the ideas of the anointed can be propagated.
I think women can do anything.
Think you can help me out over here?
Women can do anything.
The destruction of the old is, in itself, insufficient. Yes, we must tear down statues of possibly the greatest leader in world history who freed 4 million human beings from bondage, but we must also build monuments for a modern audience to take its place, such as statues of tentacle-armed, goat-horned demons, and monuments depicting the arms of a man proudly showing off that Sunday's morning glory. For every Luke, there must be a Rey. For every actual Lando Calrissian, there must be a charisma vacuum with no screen presence and a loudly touted sexual perversion, masquerading under the name Lando Calrissian. For every disease,
come with me if you want to live.
A modern audience demands a cure.
Come with me if you want to live.
Thus, Hollywood continues to shit out original characters that are neither original nor really even characters, given their utter lack of personality and one-dimensional characterization. The nominees for Worst Original Character are Reva, the lead character of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, a psychotic, angry, loud, erratic, maiming, torturing lunatic who turned out to be the good guy because her years-long campaign of atrocities and murder was all a ruse to get close to Darth Vader so she could kill him. So...
Well done. So it's all's well and back to our brandy, eh?
And Moses Ingram's horrendous acting, probably the worst the Star Wars universe has ever hosted, did not help. The fake hobbits from Rings of Power, a sub-race of field vermin who pillage whatever locale they have infested of its every edible resource before moving on to plunder the next area, like a swarm of Irish-accented locusts, the accent serving as a reminder to the viewer that this mongrel race of simian rodents is indeed the lowest form of semi-intelligent life. The winner of Worst Original Character is the fake hobbits. Quite apart from being utterly detestable, the fake hobbits were undoubtedly the most boring character of 2022, and I use the singular noun form very deliberately, since they were all the exact same character. A light-hearted simpleton with no understanding of the world. Next up, Worst Remake. Remakes used to be the occasional odd little curiosity, but for over 10 years now they have been a depressingly constant fixture. Old movies and shows have been regurgitated onto audience screens in a putrid vomit form. Although, in fairness to vomit, I would rather eat through a pile of whatever was left by the punters outside my local last Friday than watch Ghostbusters 2016. Although 2022 was flooded with the usual sewage pouring out of the remake machine, there will be no nominees this year. We will only announce the winner, because to suggest that anything even comes close to being as bad as this movie would be an insult to the hard work of whatever demonic force was raised from the sewers of hell to bring this failed abortion of a Luciferian monstrosity into the world. This movie seems to have been designed to utterly demoralize, depress, and upset anyone unfortunate enough to view it. The winner of Worst Remake is the live-action Pinocchio abomination. I will never refer to this filth as Pinocchio, because it isn't. Pinocchio is a beautiful movie that explores and celebrates the love between a father and son, teaches us that a boy without a father is too easily led astray, and that a father absent his child is a broken man. Disney no longer understand any of this. The true Pinocchio was made by artists, men of vision and talent. Disney's live-action plagiarism was yet another cynical, soulless cash-in that didn't even pretend to be anything else. This movie is so vile that it doesn't even deserve an award recognizing how bad it is. The only thing it deserves is to be physically and digitally shredded out of existence so that it becomes nothing more than a supremely unpleasant, fading memory. We now enter the voting categories of the Worst of Woke Awards. All of the awards thus far have been awarded according to the personal dictates of me, the despot. I invoke the right to unilaterally declare the nominees and winners of these awards according to my prerogative as a despot. But from this point forward, all of the awards were decided by the subscribers to this channel. Over 16,000 votes have been cast in total. Thank you to everyone who voted. All accolades from now will be awarded according to the will of the people. With our next award, we honour the contribution made by those who animate the vile creations of the writers, directors and showrunners that have run the film and media industry into the ground. We begin with Worst Performance in a Male Identifying Role. Unfortunately for anyone who doesn't like to be bored to death by cookie-cutter strong female characters that seem to have taken over everything in the past few years, male roles aren't what they once were, but the strong females need pathetic, incompetent, trembling wrecks to look good against, so, for now at least, a man does pop up occasionally in mainstream movies and TV, except in the MCU, which, with the replacement of Black Panther with a tiny female, is now entirely male-free, or Manenfrei in the official language of Hollywood. The nominees for Worst Performance in a Male Identifying Role are Warwick Davis for his portrayal of a bored-looking Warwick Davis doing a weak impersonation of Willow in Willow.
Your brother's alive, a prisoner of the withered crone, who dwells in immemorial city that lies beyond the shattered sea.
Tom Hanks for perhaps the most phoned-in, indifferent, and I'm just here for the check performance of the year in the live-action Pinocchio abomination.
Dance! Can you dance, Pinocchio? Then we'll sing and dance the whole day through!
That guy that played Gil-galad in Rings of Power for his portrayal of a confused junkie, Gil-galad lookalike that somehow wandered into the Elven Kingdom, convinced everyone he actually was the Elven King, and eventually came to believe it himself.
The undying lands of Valinor, at last they are going home!
Jussie Smollett for his performance as himself in the 2019 work The Jussie Smollett Hate Crime Hoax. This piece also featured two MAGA hat-wearing Trump supporters motivated by political, racial and homophobic bigotry who just happened to be out for a stroll in downtown Chicago at 2 in the morning in temperatures well below freezing. Bear in mind that, although Mr. Smollett's performance was from a 2019 work, he only became eligible for this award after the shock verdict in his hate crime hoax trial, determining that he did, in fact, fake the whole thing.
You do such a disservice when you lie about things like this.
If the attackers are never found, how will you be able to heal?
I don't know. Let's just hope that they are.
Bravo! Although Jussie Smollett did fake an attack on himself in an attempt to further his career, he should at least be given credit for hiring black actors for traditionally white roles.
And the winner is Jussie Smollett.
I still want to believe, with everything that has happened, that there's something called justice. Because if I stop believing that, then what's it all for?
To a television interview to Good Morning America.
Number one.
Day.
Report. Free unbonded this hour. And that police super...
They're seen here on store. A red hat, ski mask, and gloves for an attention.
That's not cool to me.
It's he was chicken, 7 sandwiches, pick a friend, just subs made fresh and easy to get.
I am not suicidal, and I am innocent.
We would also like to award the director of the Jussie Smollett hate crime hoax, Jussie Smollett, the award for worst casting. While we commend his efforts in expanding the roles available to actors of colour, we felt that 2 Nigerian bodybuilders did not make for very convincing white supremacists. And though it is easy to laugh at Smollett for his failed production, we should bear in mind that if 2 innocent white men had been arrested and charged with the attack, Smollett would have played the victim and looked on with a crocodile smile as they were condemned to prison. Fortunately, this living incarnation of narcissistic slime has the IQ of a poorly made Subway sandwich, and his plot was not well conceived enough to result in such collateral damage. Hollywood is filled with disgusting individuals who never pay for their crimes, and although Jussie Smollett's political loyalties prevented him from getting the jail time he deserved, his career and reputation have been smeared so completely that Johnny Depp's bed sheets look clean in comparison. Good riddance, Jussie Smollett. We now acknowledge the work of the female identifying members of the entertainment community. The nominees for worst performance in a female identifying role are Moses Ingram for her portrayal of Reva, the lead character of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series.
Can't find Obi-Wan! You can't escape him! We will find you!
While it is tempting to laugh at this young woman for her embarrassingly bad performance, characterized by absurd gesticulations, clumsy poses, and ham-fisted attempts to appear intimidating by shouting randomly,
Fire! Light him up! Ah!
Where is he?
Then admit you're a spy.
Ah! Enough!
we should bear in mind that this was an inexperienced actress who was not even close to ready for a big role, but was nevertheless rushed into the spotlight because of immutable qualifications that had nothing to do with her acting ability. The blame for the Reva debacle lies with the Obi-Wan Kenobi showrunners. Ginger Plank of Wood for her portrayal of Ginger Plank of Wood in Willow, another Lucasfilm casting decision. Amber Heard for her portrayal of the victim in the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard libel trial.
He, with these statements, with these leaks, these comments, once again makes me have to speak to the most horrifying things I have lived through. It's torture. It's torturous.
What is Amber Heard's morning routine? 1. Wake up. 2. Eat breakfast. 3. Take a shit. 4. Get out of bed. 5. Return to bed and take another shit.
Meghan Markle for her portrayal of the victim in Harry and Meghan.
Americans will understand this. We have medieval times, dinner and tournament. It was like that. Like I curtsied as though I was like... Pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty.
To say that everyone is sick of hearing about this wretched woman would...
A priest, Johnny Depp, James Franco, and Amber Heard walk into a bed.
The winner of Worst Actress in a Female Identifying Role is Amber Heard. This is Miss Heard's second award of the evening. Congratulations to Amber Heard on another famous number 2. The winners of the voting category awards usually won their award by a large margin, but the category we move on to now was much more hotly contested. Worst Director. This was the most voted on category with almost 4,000 votes cast. In what has been the worst year of the worst era, this was an extremely competitive category. The nominees for Worst Director are Thor: Love and Thunder, Taika Waititi. She-Hulk, powerful female directors, Kat Quaro and Anu Valia. Rings of Power, the 3 Rings of Power directors whose names I couldn't be bothered copying and pasting into this script. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Deborah Chow. The Witcher: Blood Origin, powerful female directors. And the award goes to Rings of Power. Despite having by far the largest budget in TV history, this show was incompetently directed at a fundamental level. Costumes that looked like a post-Halloween bargain bin purchase, basic editing errors.
So, basically, the orc, there's nothing there. He turns around. There's the commander.
Shots blocked incorrectly.
Old Milk Jugs here gets chosen to be one of the artists whose drawings might be used for the casket. Of course, it would help if she were drawing him from the right direction. Look at the screen. She's drawing him facing left, but when the camera tilts up to the bedridden king, he's facing to the right.
Important sections of Tolkien's world being reduced to what felt like static film sets, endless scenes of people hanging around and talking boring nonsense that seemed designed to put the viewer to sleep, laughably bad choreography, bad scaling. To take a single example of many, 3 small ships which apparently carried 500 soldiers, their horses, equipment, logistical support, supplies and weapons, and of course ship crew themselves, across an ocean. Despite the vast sea journey ahead of them, this army magically transported from the sea to the battlefield. This magical video game warping around Middle-earth was another characteristic of a show that utterly failed to communicate scale and time. Casting so incoherent and incompetent that it could only have been done with a broken bingo machine. 9 hours of fantasy war series that contains one battle, a single pissant skirmish fought over a mud heap village of no consequence. The absence of time as a dramatic device, and plot holes larger than the one left in the wall of Helm's Deep by Saruman's army. Fortunately, Amazon have identified the problem with the show's directing and announced that for season 2, Rings of Power's directing team will be entirely female. Truly, the age of men is over. While we acknowledge individual contributions to the woke annihilation of our culture, we must bear in mind that, fundamentally, the undermining and destruction of all that is good and enjoyable in the world is a top-down elitist project, theorized in academia and funded by corporations. No woke production could ever emerge at a grassroots or independent level because no one would buy the resulting product, and because the people that produce this woke refuse have not an iota of creativity and can thus only parasitize the work of true creatives. Tolkien said it best, in the immortal words repeated in many languages in the comment sections of our enemies' trailer videos: evil cannot create anything new. They can only corrupt and ruin what good forces have invented. Which brings us neatly on to Worst Company. The nominees for Worst Company are Amazon, for their failed attempt to buy Tolkien's legacy, purge the existing Lord of the Rings fanbase and replace it with a new, politically motivated fanbase, and of course, for making one of the worst series in modern history. Also for Wheel of Time. Netflix for Resident Evil, a series that bore no resemblance to the video game franchise and was just another example of woke trash with a legitimate IP name attached to it. Harry and Meghan, 3 words I hope never to hear again in my life. High Score, a show about the history of video games that contained a dedicated woke section in every episode, including one about a crappy 80s mod in which your goal is to beat up a conservative politician, and another about some idiot talking ceaselessly about how his bedroom activities and melanin level was somehow relevant to the development of video games in the 90s.
I had waited all my life to see players of color, to see a reflection of myself in games. I'm black, and I'm gay, and when you grow up African American, gay, you're taught there's a different set of rules that you're going to always have to play by. For marginalized people, a lot of energy is devoted to justifying your existence in spaces.
And of course, The Witcher, a textbook example of how intersectionality-focused show running has obliterated modern entertainment. Disney for a litany of crimes against culture, entertainment, and families, so long we are forced to give you just the highlights. Turning Obi-Wan Kenobi into a cucked coward and incompetent moron. Bait and switching what was left of the Star Wars fanbase by promising them a show about Obi-Wan Kenobi and delivering a show about some crazy annoying bitch no one cared about, then calling the fans racist for not liking it. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series itself, a shockingly bad show that was pathetic even by Lucasfilm standards. She-Hulk.
When She-Hulk showrunner Jessica Gao said, There's a little troll that lives in me that just loves to troll the trolls.
The little troll that lives inside of me was utterly delighted that we were able to troll the troll.
I thought, that troll is smart for living inside Jessica Gao. There's always plenty to eat and lots of space, and you don't have to worry about being intruded on, because there's not a chance anyone else would want to get inside her.
Every movie Disney put in theatres, every one of them sucked more ass than a barnacle attached to a sperm whale's anus. Ruining Thanksgiving weekend for many families by having the homoerotic climate change propaganda movie masquerading as a family animation, Strange World, as well as the feminist, anti-white, anti-male and profoundly boring trash heap, Wakanda Forever, in theatres that weekend. For making Willow, the show about a boring lesbian couple that every Willow fan had so long been waiting for, and which was, not incidentally, probably the worst series of the year. For destroying thousands of acres of pristine Florida wild forest to build their hideously ugly solar farm, built to increase their ESG score and to virtue signal their green credentials to the world. And finally, for promoting the sexual indoctrination of pre-adolescent children in the classroom. This category wasn't even close. Over 2/3 of the 1,000 voters, myself included, elected to award Worst Company to Disney. Let's get straight on to our next category, Worst Writing in a Series. The paucity of anything resembling even basic writing skill in major productions this year was, and I am not being hyperbolic for dramatic effect, truly astonishing. The lazy nostalgia bait one-liners of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Hello there.
The creative decision to replace battles against giant monster zombies with whingy teen drama in Netflix's Resident Evil series. The mesmerizing boredom of Rings of Power, a show whose writers decided that people sitting around having irrelevant, forgettable conversations made for better viewing than the amazing set-piece battles and nail-biting action that the Lord of the Rings franchise is known for. This paragon of bad writing, this anti-blueprint for script writing, was so poorly written that it spawned a YouTube mini-genre of videos using Rings of Power to demonstrate how not to write. This in spite of the fact that they had both the Tolkien blueprint and the Jackson Trilogy blueprint right there in front of them.
I had a bad bout of insomnia this year, so the doctor prescribed Rings of Power, telling me it would put me right to sleep. I went back to him the next week and told him, "Doc, I need antidepressants." When he asked why, I answered, "Because watching Rings of Power every night is making me want to kill myself."
She-Hulk's failed attempts at clever fourth wall breaks and meta-humor that just exposed the writers for the failed corporate diversity chattel that they are. Willow's lazy assemblage of modern and archaic dialogue.
May they rule wisely and justly, and defend our realm till that day when the true Empress, Elora Danan, returns.
Okay, you two have totally got the hearts for each other.
The opening line of The Witcher Blood Origin set a low bar for the show's writing. And things only got considerably worse from there. 3,000 votes were cast in the worst writing category, and the winner, by a considerable margin, is Rings of Power. Unlike the writers of Rings of Power, I am familiar with the concept of show, don't tell. So instead of expanding upon the failure of this show's writers, I will simply show you a selection of lines from the show.
There's a tempest in me.
The sea is always right.
The sea is always right. Nobody goes up faith.
And nobody walks alone. One cannot satisfy thirst by drinking seawater.
And the sea is always right.
A dog may bark at the moon, but he cannot bring it down.
Friend.
Hearts even bigger in our feet.
Because a burden shared may either be halved or doubled, depending on the heart that receives it.
But you have not seen what I've seen.
I have seen my share.
You have not seen what I have seen.
Give me the meat, and give it to me raw.
I'm good.
Eat your tongue.
Now the award for worst film. 2022 was probably the worst year for cinema in living memory. It had the worst box office in 20 years and, when adjusted for inflation, the worst since 1981. Here is a list of the cinematic crimes committed by Hollywood in 2022. Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, Jurassic World: Dominion, Thor: Love and Thunder, Lightyear, Bros, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, Morbius, Pinocchio live-action abomination, The Woman King, Halloween Ends, Don't Worry Darling, Strange World, She said, "This is not so much a list of 2022's cinema releases as it is a tale of woe and dread. The nominees for Worst Movie are Pinocchio Live Action Abomination, Strange World, Wakanda Forever, Bros, and the winner is Wakanda Forever." Let's face it, everyone expected the other nominees to be garbage. I don't think anyone who saw the trailer for Bros was jumping to their feet in a feral panic to pre-order tickets before they sold out. The prospect of seeing the live-action Pinocchio Abomination was about as exciting as the idea of sleeping in Johnny Depp's bed, and Strange World looked just about as enticing as a Subway sandwich at 2 a.m. So almost no one bothered seeing them, and all three bombed, rightfully so. But Wakanda Forever committed the unforgivable crime of not only being an awful movie, but of being an awful movie that many people were actually looking forward to, and of being 2 hours and 41 minutes of awful movie. This movie wasn't so much an attempt to entertain an audience as it was a confused political statement made up from a hodgepodge of feminism, black ethno-nationalism, anti-westernism, and a determination to externalise all of the problems of one group of people onto another group of people. To say nothing of the fact that the main villain, Namor the Dickless, was literally castrated by Disney.
Is this true? Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Because testosterone and everything to do with it will no longer be tolerated in the man and fry space of the MCU, who recently replaced their only good black male superhero with a woman who weighs less than Namor's missing cock.
I was really disappointed with the depiction of Namor in Wakanda Forever. The character was a lot less cocky than he was in the comic books.
While Wakanda Forever was not a flop, its massive underperformance at the box office was certainly a major disappointment for Disney, and we applaud its failure. Now for our final and most prestigious award of the evening, Worst Series. 2022 was to American TV culture what 1963 was to John F. Kennedy's head. We can take one positive away from the abyss that was 2022 streaming series. They revealed depths of awfulness not previously known to exist, and in the process emphasised just how good our entertainment was before the dark times, before the woke. Never in the history of art and entertainment has so much misery been inflicted on so many by so few. It took only a few activist morons show-running The Witcher to ruin that franchise for its millions of fans around the world. Obi-Wan Kenobi was a textbook woke bait-and-switch come for the heroic man and instead get an evil, strong, diverse female character, with the now cowed and broken titular characters safely relegated to a supporting role. Rings of Power was nothing short of an assault on the world that Tolkien created, its fandom, and its reputation. A gaudy, triumphant victory lap in which the anti-cultural elites could parade Tolkien's scalp on a pike, a scalp that they had so long sought. Resident Evil was just another example of a crappy story with worse characters, written by activists whose main concern is the immutable characteristics of those characters being presented to the world with the name of a well-known IP attached to it, but otherwise having nothing to do with that IP. She-Hulk is what corporate feminism looks like when it grows a big green dick and wanks off to its own reflection, and Willow is what happens when studios have run out of IPs to destroy, and having scraped the bottom of the barrel dry, decide to just break the barrel into small bits, serve it with a side of salad and a soy latte, and call it a meal. The nominees for Worst Series are She-Hulk Attorney at Law, the Resident Evil Netflix series, Rings of Power, Willow, The Witcher Blood Origin, Obi-Wan Kenobi. And the winner of Worst Show of the Worst Year of the Worst Era is Rings of Power. I have said everything I want to say about that show, so instead of telling you how bad it is or why it was so bad, I will instead end on a positive note. I want to thank everyone that pushed back against the cultural vandalism that was Rings of Power. Everyone who posted that wonderful Tolkien quote that we are familiar with by now. Thanks to Sean Prentice, who, on a Rings of Power trailer, wrote, the part where Gandalf pulls out the submachine gun and says to the orcs, "Say hello to my little friend!" was truly breathtaking. Tolkien could not have wrote it better. And thank you to everyone who wrote a similar comment. Our victory against Amazon in the battle for Middle-earth was a victory not just for Lord of the Rings fans, but for all fans everywhere, whose beloved IPs and franchises have been trashed by the people whose efforts this award show is intended to acknowledge. Congratulations to all of tonight's nominees and winners. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the show.